validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. Friday, that's where we are. We are live 7 nights a week, y'all, and about 15 minutes late today. While we do not let the sun rise without going live, we don't always start on time, but we always ask you guys to like and subscribe, hit the notification buttons, check out the membership, and then mash those reaction buttons while you're watching the show. I got the information together. So, Steven, Monday is up there. You should be able to go and hit that button for Monday. I got releases for some of the stuff going into the content. Man of my word so far, getting things up. I'm going to start having more releases throughout the weekend. I'm trying to do at least one a day. We have Tuesday coming up. We're going to be discussing the dividend rotation strategy for June. So you're going to see me. Well, we're going to cover June and July. So you're going to see an updated post of the list that we're going to be paying attention to for June. We're going to be seeing that go up Monday night, and that way you guys can pay attention to it. Actually, it can go up tomorrow night, so that you can decide what you're going to invest in. Because when I think about it, it's like, do I want to give them like the day of, or do I want to give them preparation? And I want to give you guys preparation time. So even though the first is like a week and some change away. If I give it to you this weekend, then you can take a look at the upcoming stocks and plan your money around which ones you want to invest in. And even though we cover like 53 or 54 of them on our watch list, and we might have like 16 or 17 of them that we want to kind of like overly abuse during wartime. The understanding is that knowing when the next dividend date is coming kind of gives you guys the idea of, even if you're just going to buy and hold the low 17 that you have, those 17 have different dates, and you just need an update on, hey, buy into it now, right? So, pay attention to that on Tuesday. Now, since we're live 7 nights a week, let's get into it. Different topic every night of the week. Sundays, questions and comments from the fans, appropriate questions on appropriate topics, appropriately structured. Then we're looking at Monday, how politics is negatively impacting our ability to make, save, and invest money. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of myth busting, because there have been some talks. Donald Trump was talking about like the $1.87 and stuff to that effect. We were talking about, there was publicity out there about other countries helping Donald Trump invade, and that's not true. So we're going to be doing some myth busting on that. And then we're going to be talking about the ups and downs of how this will go forward. But so far, they have not taken any steps to move forward. They're on a standstill with negotiations. Now, Donald Trump did say that he was going to give them a few days, and a few, in my observation, is like 3. So by Monday, which means that Sunday night and Monday morning, I will be double checking the script to make sure that they didn't start bombing everybody. Because if the bombs go out, I'm going to have to add an addendum to the script to let you guys know that the bombs are flying and there's boots on the ground. So we'll be talking about that. But I did give you guys an estimated forecast or foreshadowing observation in February and March, claiming that this would resolve itself by June. Whether it was the 1st of June or the end of June, that it would resolve itself by June. That was the original forecast that I gave you guys. I didn't give you the details on how it was going to resolve itself, but I did tell you that this conflict would resolve itself by June, by summertime, where when gas prices were going to naturally spike because of summer break and travel and all this other stuff, the war will subside and phase right into summer profits. So while the 35 to 44% increase in gas prices because of the war might occur, as the cost goes down for the war, the cost of travel goes up because of the summertime, and you might not see immediate returns on the conflict stopping, where it may not go back down to below $3 a gallon in July and August. It may not go down to below $3 a gallon until October, because it was likely supposed to go up naturally in June and July and August, especially August, because now August and September have become the 2 hottest months of the year, when it used to be June and July. So you're not likely to start seeing gas prices start going down until potentially October. Now, what does that investment opportunity mean? Well, if you're trying to catch everything while the stocks are down, just get in there while the conflict is still happening, while the strait is still blocked, while negotiations are still happening over there. And then when things start moving, you'll experience some growth as well as some dividends. However, if you get in there after the fact, you can get in there every month, regardless of whether or not the market goes up or down, because you're only going to experience the difference between the share value growth and the consistent dividends that are going to come out after the fact. And you're mainly doing it for the dividend return more than you're doing it for the growth. Okay. So you want to pay attention to that. Now, beyond that, we want to navigate to Tuesdays, where we talk to you guys financial investment information. We give you guys information on Tuesday about how to make, save, invest money, budget money, different ways to think about money, protect your money, different ways to interact with other people, changing your decision-making skills so that it doesn't negatively impact the money that you have. Because whether you want to or not, you find yourself in situations where lifestyle creep will put you in a situation where you feel like this is a necessity, and then it becomes a reoccurring expense simply because you can afford it, not because it's necessary. And that puts you in a compromising situation where you're saving more money in one area and spending more money in another area, and you ultimately end up breaking even with zero-sum game, where you have more income, but you still are stressed out and struggling and living from paycheck to paycheck. So that's one of the things that we wanted to talk about on Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays we talk about different countries around the world that you guys can invest in and potentially live in more affordably. Now, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, today being Friday, we give you guys information about personal development, self-improvement, relationship topics, negotiations, socializations, building your brand. And then we also key in there places like discussing your promotions, your raises, your retirement packages, your severance packages, and then what to do about building your 20-year plan, your 20 or 30-year plan. You know, the importance of that, how to go about doing it, and then how to stick to it. Because even when times are tough, sticking to your investment commitments are mandatory. So let's say you have a large investment commitment, right? You're not going to be able to meet that on a regular basis. Money might get tight, and then you don't have the ability to invest. You might end up instantaneously developing the habit of skipping investment installments. When you do minimalistic, like for example, $50 or $100 out of your money, then if you have extra money that can go towards it, you put an extra investment in there. Or if you say that your discretionary spending that used to be around $300 or $400 a month on luxuries or entertainment, self-gratification, instantaneous gratification, and you redirect that budget directly to your investment opportunity, you're no longer entertaining yourself with things that don't matter to you, or things that won't benefit you in the long run, and you're taking a guaranteed fixed income and putting it towards your ability to move the needle on your investment opportunities. Never selling. That's where I'm at now. Yeah, I ain't selling shit. I'm buying everything. I'm buying everything. I'm checking every day. Matter of fact, I need to check right now. Because I got on there one time and I was like, ooh, there was another $50 that I didn't even know was there. it keep going up. I'm like, damn. And then I got to go and double check on my on the stock parties and all this other stuff, and look at rewards and investment opportunities to see where increases can be increased, because there's always an opportunity. Yeah, stock party starts in 2 days, 2.5 days. So you know I'm gonna be in there getting me some free stock. And then you know I'm going to go through all of those old stocks and be like, don't need this, don't need that. Anything from 4 months ago, don't need this, don't need that. And then take that change, especially while it's up, because I'm only going to sell them while they're up. And then take the free ones they gave me, sell them while they're up, and then take the difference and put it into the brokerage, to the ones that I want it to be in, and boost those up. But yeah, I'm always going to be in a position where, buy and hold, and then reinvest those dividends while you don't need them. But when you start finding yourself in positions where you do need some of that money, instead of selling your shares, you can just get your dividend payments and take that dividend payment and put it towards your bill, or offset the difference. If you were going to get back $100 on your brokerage account, and then you were going to invest 300, instead of investing 300 because something happened and you need an extra $100, you invest 200, reinvest the principal, or reinvest the dividend return back in with the new principal. Take that 100, go take care of what you need to take care of. Either way it goes, you're making sure that your money is making money for you until you desperately need it. And if you don't desperately need it, that's your retirement. That's your long-term retirement. Now, one of the good things about the Stash app, though, is that you got that Roth IRA thing, so you can set that up and start putting money towards your Roth IRA. And you can put, like, out of the $200 that you put on your brokerage, you could put $100 on your Roth IRA and $100 into the regular Stash app and build that stuff up. But regardless of how you do what you do, when you do what you do, you make sure that all of your money is sitting where your money is going to make money for you. And if you look at, I really need to take like $100 and really just direct it to that Roth IRA just to see if I can pick and choose which stocks are in that Roth IRA. Because if I can put the same stocks on that Roth IRA that I'm putting into my normal portfolio, I can literally double down and boost up the Roth, put $7,000 into the Roth IRA, and then put the remaining money into the other account every year and get 2 payment options. But with the Roth IRA, I would just have it set up as a drip situation and just like put it in there and just keep blowing it up. But with the other one, I would really be moving money around, but it really makes sense to pay attention to your future, especially when times are tough. And that's one of the reasons why we talk about the topics that we talk about throughout the week. Steven says, when I have little ones, they can figure out what to do with my investments. When I have little ones, I'm going to teach them what they should be doing and how to invest in themselves, so that when I leave them something behind, they know what to do with that money. Because one of the things that my kids are not going to be doing is standing out there with 1,000+ people trying to buy us a watch because it's a collaboration. What my kids are not going to be doing is staying up till 8 o'clock in the morning from the night before, camped outside of a mall, waiting on a shoe store to open for them to buy the new release of the next Jordans. What my children are not going to be doing is wasting 50 grand on a freaking prom. That's what my kids are not going to do. I'm going to be hating on these kids' prom for half of the year. Every time I see a prom video, I'm going to come on this show and be like, these broke behind kids with their irresponsibly financially challenged parents buying all the damn prom stuff, not teaching these kids how to invest. That's the reason why the country is going to scrap. That's what it is. So I'll be teaching my kids what to do with it. Because let the United States government send me $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I'm going to be showing you a revolving paycheck where I can quit my job and not have to work anymore. And I got money coming in that covers the spread. That's what I would be showing my kids, how to make money for you so that you don't have to show up anymore. Now you have more free time to figure out where you're going to make more money. So instead of doing what you need to do to make money, you do what you love to do to get extra money because you don't need the money that you're making. Working for your entertainment because your standard of living paid for, that is a more meaningful style of work. Even if you was working for somebody else. If you wanted to be a lawyer, you went to law school, you passed the bar, now you're a lawyer. And you're not even a private firm lawyer. You're a fucking public defender lawyer. And you can be the best damn public defender lawyer in the country. Why? Because you don't have 2,000 clients to cover the spread for your income. You got like 50 at a time. And you make sure that 50 a year at a time. And you make sure that each one of them motherfuckers win. You go from being a public defender to a private defense attorney like the Lincoln lawyer because you didn't need money going in. So you're not going to need that money coming out. That makes you better at what you do. When you're working out of desperation, you don't have the capabilities to be the best you that you could possibly be in any field. You show up just in time to get things started. You're underprepared, you're overstressed, and then you're just trying to get through the shift so that you can go back home and hopefully try to rest. But if you got shit to do at the house, when you get back to the house, you're not even going to be able to rest when you get home. You got shit to do at the house, and that's before you have conflicts at the house. Right? Now, I know a lot of y'all came in today because y'all seen the banner. We're talking about ghosting and how the dating apps are starting to put a stop to that. So we are going to be talking about that today. I do not do trolling headlines. I am too old to rickroll. So if I tell you we're going to talk about something today, that's what we're going to talk about, but we're going to get there eventually. Trader says having that discipline to invest like clockwork is why most people never do it. They cannot imagine what can happen in the future. And that's one of the reasons why I encourage you guys to automate the transaction. Because since most human beings, not just broke people, not just broke-minded people, most human beings do not have the due diligence. Special shout out to OG Kicks. Most human beings do not have the due diligence of repetitive responsibility. If you automate it, where the day you know that the money will clear the bank, that's the day the transaction is going to take money out of your bank account. So before you can spend the money. The money is already gone. That is how positive investments will work for you and make you more successful. Now that the money's already in the brokerage account, it's less difficult for you to put it where it needs to be now that it's sitting there in your brokerage account. When you're juggling bills, even if you have extra money, even if you've overpaid on your bills, when you're juggling bills and you're not sure if there's enough money to go around, you will hold off on investing in yourself to make sure that you cover the spread, which is what broke people do, which is pay themselves last. Then if something happens between the time you got paid and the time you get paid again, you might take that extra money, instead of investing in yourself, you will do something that isn't necessary for you to do. And that's going to be an issue that you guys got to work on, that we all have to work on, right? Michael says, like my daddy says, you can rest when you're dead. In the meantime, get back to work. Look, now I can agree with that too. I bet, matter of fact, I'll be getting on folks. I'll be like, look, now you need to find something to do. You need to find 10 things to do today, one thing an hour for 10 hours. Get your ass out of bed and find something to do, right? Because there's no reason why you're doing absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter if you got a job or not. There's no reason why you're doing absolutely nothing in life. You should be doing something meaningful for your life. Find meaning and stick to it. Trader says, that's great advice. If you don't see the money because it goes into the investment account, you will not miss it. That's the point. Then when you go to the investment account, it's sitting in the investment account. You're looking at it. Now you're in the mindset of, let me put this money to work, because it's already sitting in the brokerage account. You're not going to send it back. You're not going to cancel the transaction. It might take 3-4 more days for it to get back to your bank account. You're like, nah, fuck it, it's already here. Let me just put it where it needs to go, right? So that's one of the reasons why I tell y'all, set it up to where as soon as you get paid, the money is gone. Then whatever's left, that's what you're going to pay bills with, right? That keeps you from not having enough money to take care of your future. Now, if you're doing 10% or if you're doing 20%, depends on how much you can afford to swing on this. But if you're doing 10 or 20%, you're likely to reach your goals a lot faster than if you're doing $25 and $50. But if all you can do is a baseline $25 or $50, and then whenever you got extra, you can do more, do what you can do, because the more you do now, the more you're going to have later. Michael says, why even go to work if you're not paying yourself? In other words, you're paying for someone else's. He makes a lot of sense on that. That is true. That is true. A lot of the times, it is honestly, that people aren't going to like this, but it's a slave mentality. I work for the master. Master makes money, and then I entertain myself on my time off so that I can have the energy to go back and work for master. That ain't got nothing to do with me taking care of myself. That ain't got nothing to do with me taking care of my family. That ain't got nothing to do with me bettering myself and no longer having to have this massive work, get paid, party. That's that YOLO mentality, right? Work hard, play harder, which means get paid, spend it all, and some. But that's why they stay broke. Make sure y'all like and subscribe as y'all come through here. But we're supposed to be talking about getting banned and ghosting and stuff to that effect that's on social media and dating apps today. So let's go ahead and get into that topic. Did you ever look at a partner and, hold on. Wait a minute. This is ghosting. I was supposed to be doing the other one. That is right here. Hold on a second. Let me get the ghosting. This is tomorrow's show. I was about to get in there and talk about it. I need to get today's show up there. Oh my goodness. So this is one of the good parts that I've been writing scripts for the show for so long that I've got too many of them up here, and I'm sitting over here thinking that I queued up today's script and I queued up tomorrow's script. So I went live on the wrong show. We've done it before. We've done it before, but no worries because we got everything under control to the magnitude of having everything that we need. Um, see, there's no A in ghosting. There we go. This is the one that we're supposed to be talking about, and then tomorrow we're going to be talking about the dating rules. So I got to. Oh, and this was longer than tomorrow's. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here, new question for you guys. Michael said, the more you do now, the less you have to do later. You know, I tell everybody that. I tell my kids that. I tell my father and them that. I'm like, you know, the more stuff that you do now, because there's a lot of stuff to do, and the more stuff that you do now does two things. It brings value and purpose into your life now, but then it also gets everything done so that you don't need to do anything else. When there is literally nothing else to do, where you have done everything that is supposed to be done, then we can relax. If I am forever doing things, that is because there is still stuff to do, and you are not contributing to the stuff that needs to be done. You need to find something to do. It's almost like at work. If you're the only one not working, you got time to lean, you got time to clean. If you see other people or hear other people working, your ass is supposed to be working too. The more stuff that you get done now, the less stuff you have to do later. And later, it gets harder. It gets harder because you have deadlines. It gets harder because you get older. You can't physically do it anymore. So getting it done now while you're able to makes life easier in the future. He said, what's the topic? I already told you the topic. The topic we're supposed to be talking about banning and ghosting. See, you be late. I just had the wrong script up there because I had tomorrow's script up there for today because I was doing tomorrow and Sunday and Monday to make sure that we had everything that we needed for the weekend, and then throwing stuff into the membership. Now, about this ghosting topic, what if the person who ghosted you could actually get banned for doing that? So, no, we're not talking about some fantasy world where everyone has a perfect manners, right? The dating apps term of service might have just gotten a major update, and it's starting to take on ghosting as a direct attack, right? Like it's really going to start putting a stop to that ghosting. He said, it's funny, but when you are a teenager, you cannot identify with an 80-year-old. Well, you know what's weird? When you're over the age of 70, a lot of people actually start behaving the way they used to behave when they were 14. So when you go from when you're middle age and you go from being taken care of by your parents to taking care of your parents, you start seeing why your parents was talking to you the way they was talking to you, because the same way you wasn't applying yourself when you was a kid, your parents ain't applying themselves in their retirement years. And you over here like, get your ass up. And what happens is that you get a moment of deja vu, like, I remember why they were talking to me like that. Because they done told me like 8 or 9 or 10 times. Well, luckily for me, my parents didn't have to tell me a lot of things because I took my ass to work on a regular basis. So I wasn't home to be told shit. From 9 years old, I had a job. So, you know, when they would come and talk to me, like, where you at? Work, where you at? He said, FX, you're trained to fail. A lot of people are ultimately trained to fail. They're trained to fail because it's generational failure. It's generational failure because the last generation didn't know what to do or deliberately chose not to do right. That generation taught the generation after them. That generation taught you. You don't know what to do. You're stumbling through life failure, which then leads you to teach your kids what to do. It's not just your failure, it's the failure of all the other adults around you, because it takes a village to raise a child. So when you watch society fuck up, you assume that as an adult you're supposed to fuck up. But truth be told is that society is fucking up because nobody gives a shit. And then you as an adult are supposed to be the only adult that's going to try to fix this, where 380 something million people are fucking up and you're going to be the only one that's not. It doesn't work out that way. You get assimilated to the fuckery. So eventually you just give up on trying, and then you start fucking up too. But you actually fuck up a little less because you recognize that certain things don't work for you, and you recognize that certain things is going to make things harder for you. So those are going to be the things you're not going to do. But all the other things that you can get away with, that's what you're going to do. Because in America, while it might not be right, the fact is that if nobody snitches on you, you can get away with that. So it's not about what's right or wrong. It's about who snitches on you for doing it. Which makes you more free, because if you could keep everything under the table, you could do a lot of things that you ain't supposed to do and live a pretty decent life. But as soon as somebody shine a flashlight on the life you've been living, you got a whole world of trouble that you got to deal with. He said, you would think the responsibility of schools were to prepare you for life's choices. Well, that's not what school is for. And a lot of people want to put the finger at the school. It's the parents' responsibility to teach the children. It is the grandparents' responsibility to pass down knowledge from generation to generation. It's the great-grandparents' responsibility to pass down knowledge from generation to generation. The children are supposed to be taught at home. They're supposed to be taught what they need to know to survive, and they're supposed to be taught how to behave. They're supposed to be taught how to behave in public, and they're supposed to be taught how to respect their elders, even if they're not related to that elder. They're supposed to be taught how to respect the highest authority in the room that has more control over the outcome of their situation. So if they're in a school, the teacher has the highest authority in the classroom, and the principal has the highest authority in the school. The people you don't talk back to is the people that's got more authority than you. If you're taught that at the house, when you go to school, you yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, not you can't tell me what to do. I call my mom and come beat your ass. That is a lack of home training. Kids that go to school and don't know how to read, write, and count. That's because they have enough time to teach the kids how to read, write, and count. The children don't know how to read, write, and count because some of the parents don't know how to read, write, and count neither. They're working manual labor jobs. They don't got enough time to sit at home and teach the kids how to read, write, and count. You got single family homes where the women take the children from the fathers, not because the men can't raise the children, because the women don't want the men to have the children. Then the women want to put the men on child support, not let the men see the children, not let the men teach the children, raise the children. Now the woman uses the excuse that because she has the children, that she has too many burdens on her plate, she's got to go to work and this, that, and the third, and the child can't get what the child needs when the child needed her daddy. If you would drop the child off by her daddy house and let daddy teach the child while your ass is at work, then the child will still get both parents in the child's life, but the child ain't getting that because mama's going to keep the child hostage for a paycheck, not give the child everything the child needs. So the children are not being properly taught at the house. And since they're not being properly taught at the house, they go to school and now the burden is on the teacher. But the teacher's got two problems. One, the children are dumb as fuck, and two, some of the children are rebellious because the school is a babysitter. And the children who don't know what to do are going to lash out because they're embarrassed. The children that are overly intelligent, that aren't being taught fast enough because the majority of the class is dumb as fuck, they're going to get bored and start clowning around to entertain themselves. But nobody is putting forth the effort to make sure that the kids get this at the house. That's why when you see the kids from Asia who's getting tutors for 4-year-olds so that those kids can be doing 9th grade math work at 5 and 6 years old, 7th grade, 8th grade math work in 3rd and 4th grade, and then those kids are going to international school so that they can get master's degree, so that they can come to America with a citizenship and be smarter than the average American, so that they can live the same life that we live. You got to ask yourself, why is everybody else trying so much harder to do what we do the way we do it? That's because we come from a culture where we're not being taught properly, home first and then school. So school is not supposed to teach you how to balance a checkbook. Mom and dad are supposed to teach you how to balance a checkbook. School is not supposed to tell you how to make, save, and invest money. Mom and dad is supposed to teach you how to make, save, and invest money. But where mom and dad fall short, mom and dad should be donating money to the school, to the public school, not wasting money on private school. Donate money to the public school as a tax write-off. And then have the school embed an economics class into the high school and the middle school so that the kids is taught how to make, save, and invest money. Not an economics class is going to talk about the fucking economy. Fuck the economy. Let's talk about how you can keep money in your paycheck and work for yourself in middle school and in high school. But no teacher is going to teach that if they don't have a good salary for that. $65,000 a year, you're going to have to spread a budget for that, right? And then if you're trying to add that as a curriculum in 4-year institutions, public schools is going to have that in your associate's degree, right? which means you're going to have to put teachers in the school for that too. Teachers aren't teaching that in high school, not because they can't, but because there's no value in it. No degree in the history of college is how to make, save, and invest money. Business school only teaches you how to handle a spreadsheet. Accounting only teaches you how to do a mass scale calculations, plug numbers into an algorithm, create the algorithm maybe, but not how to do your own money for yourself. Nowhere in there are they teaching you how to do taxes or adjust your taxes when you go to political science classes. But don't you think taxation should be like in that class when they're talking about fucking politics? No, they're going to talk about the red side. They're going to talk about the blue side. Some are going to talk about how Republicans are idiots. Some are going to talk about how Democrats are idiots, but nobody's going to talk about the tax bill that's on the docket. It is the lack of knowledge that is being passed on from generation to generation is why we have generations of failure. The reason why 77% of Americans are struggling is because 77% of Americans don't know what the fuck to do, which is the reason why 77% of Americans continue to fuck things up, which is the reason why this podcast is here to teach you guys how not to fuck things up. I'm going to give you guys a different way to look at things, a different way to do things, a different way to apply yourselves to things so that you can now have the common knowledge that's not all too common. Because while I know this, and some people who come to the show know this, some of the people who pass through here find out about it, and they're like, damn, I didn't know this, but it's on the internet. He said they go to school for 8 hours. They do, but they go to school. They're going to the babysitter for 8 hours. They're going to get breakfast at school. They're going to get lunch at school. They're going to get playtime at school. And then they're going to come home and they don't even get homework anymore. That's one of the reasons why the kids don't know what they need to know. He said Xander should be Secretary of Education and rewrite the school curriculum. Well, I mean, I can write it, but only the top 23% of Americans are actually going to be able to put it into action, because 77% of Americans don't actually vote for shit. We have our voting process is that we on the civilian level vote for the electoral voters to vote on our behalf. So there's like 12 or so people. There might be more than that because I don't remember how many people are in the electoral college, but there's at least 12 in the electoral college. There might be like 50 because I think there's like at least one in every state. But the electoral college votes for the president, which is like a handful of people. Less than the number of people in Congress is voting for the president, right? Now, all of the people in the state tells their electoral voter who to vote for. They don't have to listen to the people. They're supposed to, but they don't have to listen to the people. They can vote for whoever they want, right? Because you vote for the person that's supposed to be in the electoral college anyway. So if you voted for a Republican to be there and that person's supposed to vote Republican, if that person votes Republican, it doesn't matter what the rest of the people say. What matters is that he voted Republican, right? So I can write something as a Secretary of Education. Department of Education has been dismantled. I could write something, but what we really need is for people to listen. You put your money where your vote is. You don't need to write a bill and pass a law to change the way things are. If there's a 280 something million Americans, at least 200 million Americans that are in that 77% bracket. And out of that 200 million Americans, if we all donated $10,000 a year to college and got a tax deduction on that, right? That would be a couple $1 billion a year going towards education. Quite a few $1 billion a year going towards education. In addition to what the United States government is already giving to the education, because we would be giving it directly to the schools we want to have it, and then getting a tax write-off until they change the laws for doing that, right? Then, because we're giving so much money to the school, all of the parents that are giving it to the public school would go to the school board, go to the Department of Education, and tell them that we want this type of curricular in this school, or we're going to pull funding. You don't need a secretary of anything for that situation. You let them get comfortable with the $10,000 a year that you was offering and say, well, fuck, we'll pull funding if y'all aren't going to put these types of teachers in the school so that our kids can learn the things that we don't have time to teach them at the house. What do you think this school board's going to do? They're going to put those teachers in there. But a few $billions a year being donated from the people directly to the school's budget is going to maximize in ways that it was never getting from the government, where the special education classes would get funded, and they would have plenty of money to give teachers raises and promotions and hire teachers that have a better skill set, which brings up the GPA of your kids in your classrooms. Because one of the reasons why your kid is dumb is because your teacher is dumb. Because a smart kid can't stay smart with dumb teachers. It is what it is. He said, believe me, they'll still mess up. Everybody's going to make mistakes, but they make less mistakes when they have generational knowledge on their plate. Because some of the politicians don't know anything about economics at all, or economy at all. They talk like children. It's ridiculous. That's because the politics is more of politics is going to be more of a popularity contest. Yeah, they have a platform. Yeah, they have things that they claim that they want to accomplish. But their goal is to have this on their resume and get paid for it. That's their goal. Fixing shit might have been what they thought they were going to do when they first started politics. But once they got into politics, there were two things that they had to do. They rubbed elbows with some folks. So somebody put them in a position to succeed. So now they got to pay back that debt. And then somebody paid for their campaign. They got to pay back that debt. And then whatever it is that they said they was going to do, they got to try to do some of that. And then personal agendas, right? So it stops being about changing the world and starts becoming getting mine out of this shit before they vote me out of office. It is what it is. Michael says kids on average only get about 30 minutes of quality time each day, breakfast and dinner, if even that, versus 8 hours of school. The community is raising your kids. Yeah, you're right. They're getting 30 minutes a day, and that 30 minutes a day is all of dinner. That is not breakfast time. They get breakfast at school, free lunch, free breakfast on the meal plan. So they get up at like 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, catch the bus to school because their parents don't have enough time to drive them to school. Some parents drop them off at school, but they still go to school in time to get that free breakfast, which is why I'm still disappointed about all them high school students that was spending all their money on prom for senior prom. Because if your mom and daddy had you on a free lunch program, your ass should not have more money in your hand right now than it costs the school to feed you for your entire education. You should be giving that to the school as a thank you for making sure I wasn't hungry. Just on that note, just on principle. But beyond that, yes, kids spend more time in school than what they spend at home with their family. They when they not at school, they spend more time running the street than what they do at home with their family. It take a village to raise a child. I'm gonna tell you that again, and the reason why I'm gonna tell you that again is because back in the day, your neighbors would tell your kids not to fuck up in the street, and you would get your ass whooped in the street by the neighbor's parents, and then your neighbor's parents would call you and tell you that they had to beat your child and acting ass. Then when you got home, your mom and daddy would beat your ass. You better hope that they at the house at the same time, because if one of them get home before the other one of them gonna beat your ass because they found out first. Then the other one gonna beat your ass when they get home because of the rumor gonna get around that you got your ass whooped by two people for doing something you ain't had no business doing. So now I gotta beat your ass because I don't want to be left out of the ass whooping delivery. So when we was growing up, Gen Zs and baby boomers and shit, we had accountability. We was on our best behavior. Don't embarrass your family name. Don't embarrass your legacy. You know, we don't mess up in ways where the neighbor lady can snatch you up and give you what your mom and daddy ain't gonna give you before you get home, kind of shit. You know, nowadays you have a lack of accountability where the children can act reckless, because if you put your hands on the child, then the state gonna come and arrest you. Then you can't. The parents can't tell a child nothing because the state gonna come and collect the children. Now the parents are scared to tell the children nothing. The teachers can't do. There are more than 20 states in the United States that still do corporal punishment in school, where the teacher still by law beat the kid's ass in the school. It's only enforced in private schools because public schools are socially unacceptable. But since the teacher can't whoop that ass when the child start acting out of line, now that the students can disrespect the teacher, and the teacher got to stand there and take that abuse. But while the student is disrespecting the teacher, the other kids in the classroom are laughing at the fact that this kid ain't got no respect for authority. And now the teacher has no control over the classroom. Now you got 30 kids not learning shit because one child don't got no respect for authority. Now all the kids in that class is failing. And each time this happens on each grade level, all the kids aren't learning what they need to be successful. They're learning less than what they needed to be successful because a teacher can't teach because a child is disruptive, right? So all of this goes back to bad parenting. All of this goes back. And since 82% of the broken homes do not have the fathers in it, it is not the men's fault that these children are this damn bad. It's the women's fault that the children are this damn bad. Because if daddy was there, daddy would have bust that ass. If the teacher would have had to say something sideways to the child, and the father would have came to the school and heard what the teacher had to tell the child because of the child's behavior, instead of the father trying to beat the teacher up, the father would have whooped the child in the class, in the school, in front of the other kids, so that they know you not gonna do this. Back in our day, all the teacher had to do was say, "Don't make me call your daddy." That was it. You would sit down and shut up after that. Don't call him. Nowadays, don't make me call him. I'll speed dial him on my cell phone. He gonna come down here and fuck you up. That's what you got these days. But back in my day, don't make me call your daddy, because you already knew that if daddy got to come down here, daddy gonna put that belt to your behind in the middle of this classroom, in front of all your friends that you trying to entertain right now. FX Trader said billions give to schools. Billionaires give to schools like Harvard would be better spent on basic education. But schools like Harvard have now opened the doors for financially challenged individuals. After the Department of Education shut down, Harvard, any family making less than $200,000 a year now has a free ride at Harvard. So while it is still going to be a first come, first serve, and they're going to meet capacity a whole lot faster now, Harvard is now got a financial aid program for kids that don't make up $200,000 a year. So billionaires are going to invest in Harvard, and then people that make less than $75,000 a year, now their kids can go to Harvard. Typically, it's going to be black families, because Harvard was supposed to be, something to the magnitude of a black school. But it's going to be those people who used to not be able to get into Harvard, Yale, and all this other stuff. It's got a free ride into Harvard. All you got to do is have the grades. Michael says, the times I got butt in school, disruptive kids and parents should be banned from school property. You would say that, but they still got to learn. They got to get taught at some point. So take a kid that doesn't learn anything because they don't understand. You kick them out of school, they still don't know nothing. The kids who don't know how to behave, you don't teach them how to behave. You ostracize them from society. They're never going to know how to behave. Now, those are going to be the kids that's going to turn into your drug dealers, your gang members, your Crips and Bloods, and all of this gang signs, and shooting at one another's ops at the traffic light with their pants hanging off their behind, where the most meaningful thing in their life is getting a bag and selling it to somebody else and getting arrested and going to prison and coming out of prison, and multiple baby mamas and no responsibility and child support, no driver's license, stolen cars and all. You're building a life of failure. Instead, you should just be teaching the kids how to be responsible before the kids learn how to be irresponsible. Instead of teaching them what not to do, you should put more effort into teaching them what to do, and then give them positive reinforcement and praise for doing what they know is right, instead of disciplining them for not doing it right, so that the kids will learn how not to get caught doing it wrong. You teach them what to do right, and then reward them when they do right. Positive reinforcement. Stephen says the state doesn't allow discipline, but the judge will discipline the child after they grow up. This is creating a revolving door in the prison system. You are partially correct. States do allow discipline. Society doesn't allow discipline. If you Google it right now, there's a large number of states that still allow the teachers to discipline the children in the classroom. While and this is legal. There's a large number of states that still allows for the children to catch a whooping from the teacher or the principal in the classroom, which is why there is a principal, an assistant principal, or vice principal, which was used to back in the day identified as the disciplinarian. In a college, you have that. You have the dean, and then you have the assistant dean. That was the disciplinarian. The disciplinarian used to put that paddle to your ass. They don't do that no more. But the fact of the matter is that they don't do it because society says it's not right. Not because the law says it's illegal. It's because society says it's not right. Now, while the law says you can go ahead and bust that ass, if I'm not going to allow my child to attend a school that allows my kid to get his ass whooped, then the public opinion, because schools are based off of reputation, they're not going to have the teachers do that. So now the female teachers get heavily scrutinized because too many women are insecure about their own body. So if a hot teacher comes to class one day, they want to remove that smart teacher from school because she's too attractive for the boys in the class. Let my boy be up in there with a hot teacher that's smart as fuck. You better take your ass to school and pay attention. Because if you're paying attention to her double D's and come back to me with some D's, I'm gonna bust your ass. You're not going to be paying attention to her TNA. You're going to be trying to pay attention to them SATs, right? The only CAT you're going to be paying attention to in that classroom is going to be the California Achievement Test. You know what I mean? We had attractive kids when we had attractive teachers when we were going to school, but when we went to school, we learned and came out of there with. You understand? It said teacher just passed them on to the next teacher. Well, no, that's not the teacher. That's the law. Teachers don't pass nobody nowhere. The teacher give your ass an F because you didn't pass the class. But No Child Gets Left Behind program says that if you're a certain age, you're supposed to be at a certain grade level. So just because you didn't pass don't mean that you're not going to move on to the next grade. It just means you're going to move on to the next grade with a fucking F. That's what that means. that ain't the teachers. That's society. That's society. No Child Gets Left Behind was not supposed to pass kids just because they're a certain age. No Child Gets Left Behind was supposed to teach the children what they needed to know so that they will not fall behind, so that as they continue to graduate out of school, they will still graduate out of school with the minimum quantity of knowledge that they needed. But instead, in practice, it turned into if you're 16 years old, you're in the 9th grade. That's what it is. You're either 15 or 16 in the 9th grade, and it depends on whether your birthday was before December or after December. That's it. And No Child Gets Left Behind. So it don't matter if you're dumb or not. FX Trader said it's time to bring back corporal punishment. Screw society. 19 states allow corporal punishment. I told you it was about 19 or 20 of them over there that's still whooping asses. And the fact is that it's just socially unacceptable. It's just socially unacceptable. He said, well, they still failed. Waste of 12 years. That's the parents' fault more than the school's fault. And I think there was a situation, I covered the topic once before about them potentially doing a 13th year to help the kids acclimate into community college on their way to the 4-year private institutions. And a lot of kids didn't like that. But the fact of the matter is that we failed, the parents failed the children because whatever knowledge they did get from the teacher in the classroom, they were supposed to reinforce that by getting taught and tutored by their parents at home. Now, for those parents who ain't got enough time to teach and tutor their kids, you pay for a private teacher and then make you some money. I mean, not make you some money, but as private teachers, I'm thinking, shit, I'm gonna make me some money to teach these kids. But you pay for a private teacher and have the teachers teach the kids what they're not understanding. When they go to school, they're still making them A's and B's, right? And then they still will No Child Get Left Behind because instead of mommy and daddy investing in the school and paying the school more money so that the kids know something, mommy and daddy can pay for private teachers to teach a child at the house so that the child know the stuff when they get to school. Either way, the parents are failing the children. And since, like I said, 82% of these single family houses has got the children not being allowed to be around their fathers to get this stuff, it's the women's fault, whether they like it or not, because they got the kids the majority of the time. So the children are failing because the women ain't spending the child support money on private teachers. You ain't gotta like it. It's just statistics. That wasn't what we were supposed to be talking about today. We were supposed to be talking about getting banned on social media for ghosting people doing date naps. But since we own the education topic, I'm just gonna talk about the education topic for a moment. Is it kind of hard to teach your kids while at work 8+ hours a day? But you know what? Your ass would not be at work 8+ hours a day if y'all shared responsibility and kept the relationship together and communicated and negotiated and navigated as a team. Then one of y'all could be at the house watching the kids and teaching the kids stuff, and the other one could be at work. And if you wanted to have an egalitarian lifestyle, y'all can do fucking swing shifts where one of y'all do 6 to 8 hours on the daytime and come home and teach the kids, and the other one do 6 to 8 hours in the nighttime and come home and teach the kids, and that still give y'all 4 to 6 hours of not neither one of y'all being at work, right? Because out of 24 hours out of the day, you got 8 hours with at work and 8 hours at the house with the kids and 8 hours sleep, and your partner is 8 hours at work and 8 hours at the house with the kids and 8 hours of sleep. And ultimately, if y'all was just responsible about your lifestyle, you can have 16 hours a day where there's at least one parent at the house with the children, making sure the children know what they need to know. And then y'all still get a full 8 hours of sleep, and y'all can still work a full 8-hour jobs. One of y'all work a day job and one of y'all work a night job. And if y'all schedule it to where y'all both got the day off at the same time, then the whole family can go somewhere 2 days a week and y'all can enjoy life. And the kids are still learning at home. But again, we got broken homes because we have women that dominate men, and then the relationship fall apart because she's not satisfied with the lifestyle. She takes the kid and leaves. Now she's doing everything by herself. The stuff that she didn't want to do when she was married, now she's doing it while she's single, which makes no fucking sense. But now she doesn't have time for the kid. It's the man's fault because the man's not there. But he's not there not because he doesn't want to be there, because she doesn't want him to be there. The kid's not getting what the kid needs because dad's not there. That's not dad's fault, but dad's going to get blamed for it. Then the kids are going to grow up corrupted. The parent that had the most contact with the child is the reason why the child is fucked up. It is what it is. that is called opportunity. Is that all the boys who don't behave need to join the military for at least 2 years? No, that's okay. Donald Trump had already put it out there that everybody over the age of 18, between 18 and 26, is going to be enlisted come January. So all we need is for the government to add or change the military service laws and make it a mandatory term of service, a mandatory 2-year enlistment for every male, the same way they got it in Asia, mandatory 2-year enlistment of every 18-year-old. So from 18 to 20, or from 20 to 22, that they do a mandatory 2-year stint. That's all they got to do is just change the law. But they can change that law after the draft, after the draft is enforced, because then they'll have 100% of the kids that have anything that shows that they're 18. They'll have 100% of Americans on lists. And then they could just start doing the year after that and say, everybody's there, draft them for 2 years. Involuntary draft, and make it mandatory standard practice. Women need nails, hair, weed. Name brand. He said weed, not weave, weed. He might have meant weave, but these girls be smoking like night trains. Name brand stuff, bottle service. It's not their fault the kids are failing. He says Xander is right, but somebody has to fix it. The women will not. Well, first person accountability, the only way the men are going to fix it is if the men change the women that they choose so that they don't allow the children that are born to be in these types of structures. That's not the first thing we got to do. We also got to change the way we behave as men in society. Instead of supporting the negative behavior of women with scantily clad outfits, dressing like you know strippers and OnlyFans girls, we need to not degrade them and berate them, not slut shame them for looking like sluts, but not encourage it by whistling and complimenting and all of this other stuff. If you look like you're for sale, I should ignore you like you don't exist, right? When you look classy, when you look respectable, when you look like a female politician, when you look like a modest conservative librarian, then I come and compliment you. But when you look like you are for sale, I don't acknowledge you at all. I don't approach you. I don't offer you anything. I don't buy anything for you. If she is dressing in a way where you as a father would not condone that with your 9-year-old, 15-year-old, 17-year-old daughter, then she's not dressing the way she should be dressing in society. And as men, we should stand on that and say, no, if I wouldn't allow my kid to dress this way, I should not have my girlfriend dress this way. I should not have my future wife dressing this way, because my future wife, as a mother of my children, are not going to allow my child to dress this way. So she should not dress this way. And women should not be saying, oh, well, you can't tell me how to dress, I'm grown. Well, if I'm paying for your fucking clothes, bitch, I'm going to tell you what the fuck to wear. At the end of the day, he said, for men and for women, should serve 2 years of military. I do agree, because women want to say that everything is equal these days, and everything is supposed to be evenly across the board. I believe, yeah, that women should be enlisted and go to war. Women should be enlisted before the men. In all honesty, with the falsehood of a matriarchal society that women are talking about right now, I mean, the women should be enlisted and go to war, fight and die for the country, and let the men stay at home and take care of the children. Then the women can be in charge. Because them all-female military forces they got overseas, where those women come home and still respect their husbands. These are female soldiers. These are female combat specialists that still come back home and respect their husbands. The fact is that the women in Asia are showing the women in America that you can be an alpha boss lady and still respect your man. It just doesn't happen in America. Now, back to the main topic for today. For years, it's been a silent killer of the modern romance situation, where that sudden, unexplained silence leaves you wondering, was it me? Was my joke that bad? Did they just die? You know what I mean? Because we've been all in this position at one point in time when we're communicating with somebody on social media, dating sites or stuff to that effect, staring at that chat that went from nonstop notifications to a digital graveyard. The anxiety and self-doubt that comes with zero closure have become a miserable but expected part of the dating world today. But what if all that is about to change? What if the era of consequence-free disappearing acts is finally ending? Something big is happening in the world of online dating. The same platforms that created the perfect environment for ghosting to become a trend are now tuning into it. They're rolling out new policies and features designed to hold people accountable and maybe bring a little common decency back to the world of swiping right or left. Now, today we're looking at this new push against ghosting. So we're going to be getting into which apps are fighting back and how they plan to enforce these new rules, and whether it will actually solve the problem or just create new problems on top of the old problems. We're also going to explore the psychological aspects of why ghosting hurts so much, and then ask the controversial question: is it ever okay to do it? Because you got to think about this. The realistic observation of ghosting versus actual, like, passive ghosting. And the reason why I'm talking about it like this is because ghosting, by definition, would be you having a positive communication with somebody where you guys are messaging each other back and forward, and then you just stop responding. People call it ghosting when they message you for the first time and you never message back. You've never entered into a dialogue, right? Not the same. We're going to be going into, the observations. This is about more than just bad manners. It's about changing the rules of digital dating so that if you've ever been left unread, this is going to be a topic that you're going to want to linger on. You said ghosting or stalking. Well, people throw around stalking the way they throw narcissism, and they throw around gaslighting. And I think it's an abuse of the word. True stalking is a person that is deliberately following your every move and doing everything in their power to be where they can interact with you when you have already made it clear that you do not want to interact with them. True stalking is like they're showing up on your job, they're mailing stuff to your house, they're calling you, texting you, emailing you, kidnapping you, whatever the case may be. Stalking, true stalking, is when you've made it clear that you are not interested and they are still pursuing you profusely. Okay. Now, understandably on social media, because everybody has, not everybody, but majority of people have a public access to their profiles. If you linger on somebody's page and look at all of their photos and go through their feed history and you're liking all of their photos, people are going to call that stalking. No, that's not stalking. They might read every post you've ever written since you opened your account. That's not stalking. When they start making negative comments to you, when they start making ongoing engagements after you made it clear that you're not interested in them, that's stalking. Communicating, the lack of communication with somebody, but following their feed. It's almost like giving them a subscription to your lifestyle. That's not stalking, but people are going to call it stalking because the difference between the guy that she wanted to talk to her versus the guy that she doesn't really want to talk to her is that she will devalue, degrade, and demasculate the man that she doesn't want to talk to her to make him leave, to force him to leave. Not because he's doing anything wrong, because the guy she doesn't want is doing the exact same thing as the guy that she does want. But because she does want that, there's no problem. Overall, there's no problem with it with either. Okay. So dude's not in the bushes with binoculars dressed up as a plant watching you from across the street. Dude's not leaving stuff on your car and bringing stuff to your house and showing up on your job and all this other stuff. So since none of this stuff is happening, it's not stalking. Being able to swipe right on somebody's profile, read their profile, look at all their photos, that's not stalking. Okay. So let's get that understood. Okay. It's and Michael, so it's not online stalking. So online stalking would be you making negative comments to somebody. They explain to you that they're not interested in communication. They block you. You create another account, reconnect to their profile, and continue following them. Continue not just looking at their page, but continue to make communication with them. Challenge why they blocked your previous profile, threaten them. That's stalking. That's online stalking. But if you're watching my live feeds every night of the week, 365 days a year, 4 or 5 hours at a time, you're watching my channel, you're not stalking me. For those individuals who come to the show and said something negative and then I block them, if they come back on a different profile and pretend like they're somebody else, they're not stalking me. They're re-engaging because it is a public platform. Now, if they continue to make negative comments and start making threats and all of this other stuff, that starts turning into to online stalking. It's a misuse of the word. It said, can ghosting trigger some bad responses? Ghosting can trigger a lot of things, and we're going to be getting into some of that stuff today. Um, because when you have a good conversation with somebody, you think this is going to lead to something, and then somebody stops communicating with you. Immediately, you're going to think that you did something wrong. Then you're going to, like I said before, think that something happened to them. Once you have gone past, because there's different stages of grief, right? And this is going to be part of the detachment phase. Once it's not your fault, and once they're not in trouble, then it's just they're an asshole. So from did I do anything wrong to is everything okay to why the fuck did you not respond to me? What the fuck is going on? What did I do? You bitch, this, that, and the third. Yeah, it can spiral down into that. But it also personally can trigger psychological and emotional damage because you're continuously being rejected by people who don't have enough time or doesn't make enough time or have enough value in you to tell you that while I enjoyed the time that I had with you, I am not interested in pursuing a long-term engagement with you. You know, a simple template, a simple rejection template that you could have queued up on your electronic device. You could pin it in your comments on your phone, on the clipboard of your phone. You can put it into a PDF file on your computer. And then when you're talking to somebody and you're not interested in that person, you can just copy and paste. So you don't got to sit there and write up a long rejection letter. You can have a standardized. I really appreciate the time that we had. Our talks were wonderful, but I'm not interested in you. Good luck with your future endeavors. Copy, paste, submit. Done. Each person that you're no longer interested in, give them a guarantee this isn't going to work notice, but not too many people do. But that leaves them continuously reaching out for that closure. And that will trigger a negative response because if you're not interested, but you don't say you're not interested, they're going to keep pursuing because they thought there was something there. Typically, this is men pursuing women, not women pursuing men. And then the women will treat that as he's stalking me. He's not stalking you. You fucking ghosted him. And he doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And he's trying to see if he can fix this or if it's over. But you won't give him the confirmation or clarification in order to resolve the situation on a positive or negative level. He said, women call it stalking if they don't like the guys older. That exactly. That's what it is. A special shout out to Nicole, Detroit, Michigan, in the house. Yeah. The women are gonna call it stalking simply because they don't like the guy. Either they don't like what he's doing or they don't like what he said, and now he's stalking me. No. Sometimes the guy can just show up and he's all of a sudden in trouble just because he showed up. Not because he did or anything, but because she would have preferred somebody else to show up, which is another reason why men don't engage as much as we used to. Because I'm not about to catch a felony because I thought that it would be a good idea to offer to buy you a drink at the bar. I wasn't offering to sleep with you. I didn't threaten your safety. I just walked up thinking I could buy you a drink and we could talk. It's amazing how T-Pain, I'll buy you a drink, didn't become a trend, but Scrubs, Men Ain't Shit, and Can You Pay My Bills became a behavior pattern for women. I don't understand. I don't understand how Beyonce was more influential then. You know what I'm saying? Make it make sense to me. Now, before we get into the new rules, we have to understand the problems. How do we get to a point where a behavior that everyone hates becomes so very common? Depending on the survey, between somewhere around 78 to 89% of singles say that they've been ghosted at least once, if not multiple times. It's a deafening feature of modern dating. So to understand why, you have to look at the design of the apps themselves. First, there's a sheer volume of choices. We've talked about this plenty of times. Dating apps have turned the dating pool into a seemingly infinite ocean of profiles. This creates what psychologists call decision fatigue. So when we have too many options, our brain gets overwhelmed and we start to devalue each individual choice. So a person stops feeling like a person and starts feeling like another profile that you swipe past. And this is crazy because all of the people that swiped left on you, you're not notified about. So you only deal with the other half. So look at the calculation of probability. Because the app makes it mandatory for you to interact with the profile. Because if it wasn't, if you didn't have to interact with the profile and you could just skip over the profile with some of those profiles where you scroll and you don't have to acknowledge it or not, you have, for the scrolling apps, it's about 5% will interact with the profile. So out of 100 people, 5 will interact with the profile. Now, out of the 5 people that interact with the profile, half of them will agree with the profile, the other half will disagree with the profile. So out of 100 people, 2 to 3 people will like your profile. That's probability and statistics as it comes down to advertisements. Now, the mandatory swipe left, swipe right platform increases the mandatory requirement for interaction. So now each profile gets interacted with where there's a 50-50 chance that they're going to say no. Now, 50% of the people who saw your profile did not like your profile. Out of 100% of the people that like your profile, you still got 5% of people that might interact with you. So out of 200 people that saw your profile, 100 people liked your profile, and out of the 100 people that liked your profile, only 5 people, right? Out of those 5 people that communicate with you, you might not get a second response, but if you do, it might lead to a date if you're lucky. But probability dictates that since men get rejected more often than approved of, that a guy is probably going to have to interact with 50 to 100 women in order to get one in-person date. Now, since probability puts 5 conversations out of every 200 women, in order for a guy to have 100 interactions on a profile in order to get the one date, you now have to look at 400 women for every 10 women that says yes, right? That interacted with his profile, which means that 4,000 women interacted with this poor profile in order for the one woman to go on a date with this guy. Let's talk about the numbers here. Okay. Now, when somebody does go out on a date with you and then that person ghosts you after the date, now you have to start that process all over again, where even in modern dating, the guys go on a first date upward of 25 to 40 times a year. So it takes 4,000 interactions with your profile to get one date. And you're going to take 25 to 40 dates a year before you find someone that will get you to the second date and potentially a long-term relationship. You're looking at upward of 4 million plus interactions with your dating profile before you can find the one. The gamified design with its random rewards of new matches conditions us to keep swiping to see connections as disposable. It creates a psychological distance. Like back in the day when we used to get a girl's phone number, that meant commitment. By the mid 2000s, girls were giving phone numbers away like it wasn't nothing. You would collect the numbers just to say that you got the number, but never follow up on communication with the person, because there was so many that were giving away phone numbers for no reason that the value of collecting that number was gone. Now on social media, the connection, there's so many connections that happen on the platform that the connection that you get the notification of is not meaningful anymore, right? So it doesn't feel like you're ignoring real people. It just feels like you're closing a tab on a computer. This depersonalization is a key factor in the ghosting platform. So research shows that the gamification of dating apps can turn potential partners into commodities that are easy to discard. So you can't just swipe left on someone in a coffee shop and make them vanish because you're sitting there with them. But on an app, that's literally what's happening. There are no social consequences. No one sees you do it. And you get to avoid an awkward conversation. The other person who gets swiped left on does not even get notified that they were rejected. So the magnitude of rejection that you experience getting ghosted by the person you made an in-person date with, where your profile had to encounter 4,000 people for you to have one person stand you up after the first date, you understand that that is a more severe level of rejection than them just ignoring the fact that you messaged them because they got too busy. For the people who does it, it feels victimless, even though we know from experience that it isn't. So why do people actually do it? The reasons are varied and frustrating. So for many, it's about avoiding conflicts. An article in Psychology Today noted that ghosting is often a strategy used by people who have the communication skills to handle difficult conversations. So those who do not have the communication skills to handle difficult conversations. And we've talked about something similar to this in a previous show, where companies don't actually talk to you about not hiring you. They only talk to you about hiring you, right? Because that's a hard conversation to talk about. Not a lot of people talk to you about firing you. Typically, they make that one person's job, right? But they were told by somebody else to fire you. You're mad at the messenger, but the messenger is delivering a message that the powers that be don't want you to work here anymore. I can't do anything about it. I am just here to tell you that you got to get your stuff and get out. And security is here to escort you out, right? The people who can't handle difficult conversations, conflict avoidant individuals, they tell themselves that they're sparing the other person's feelings when really they're just sparing themselves a few minutes of discomfort with letting the other person know that they're not interested. For others, it's just laziness or being overwhelmed. One study found that women who often receive a ton of matches and messages might ghost people simply because they can't keep up with all the communication. It's not malicious. She doesn't have a vendetta against these people. She doesn't want to see them suffer. It's just a response to a flawed design. So beyond simple avoidance, there's a darker side. Research has linked the tendency to ghost with dark triad personality traits, narcissism, psychopathy, and mischievousism. Yeah, mischievousism. It's almost like villainism. For people with these traits, ghosting is a perfect exit strategy. It requires zero empathy and it gives them a sense of power and control. Basically, these are the type of people who will draw you in for the psychological and emotional validation. After they get the psychological and emotional validation, they can dispose of you and then reach out to somebody else and get that same psychological and emotional validation without having to deal with the repercussions of dismissing you abruptly. Now, the impact on the person who gets ghosted, brutal. It's not just the rejection, it's the ambiguity. Triggers deep feelings of anxiety and self doubt, separation anxiety, abandonment issues. Our brains are wired to seek closure. Ghosting is the ultimate denial of that closure, leading you to replay conversations and search for clues that don't exist. What if I would have did this? What if I would have said that? Was it me? Was it her? Was it him? Was there somebody else? Are they just too busy? You know what I'm saying? Psychologists compare it to the silent treatment from, well, it's a silent treatment, which is a form of passive aggressive emotional abuse. And ladies, while we're talking about passive aggressive emotional abuse, I've told you guys on a regular basis that in relationships, you should never give your partner the silent treatment. You should be able to take the time, 5, 10 minutes, an hour, calm down, remove your emotions from the situation, regroup with your partner. Do not let the day resolve itself where y'all had gone to sleep and woke up tomorrow and did not address the situation. Before bed, without waiting until bed, you guys are supposed to be able to articulate and communicate exactly what you felt went sideways about this situation. It's not about what you did, it's not about what I did. When this happened, I felt this way, and I needed you to know about that. Now, if we're going to address it tomorrow, if we're going to address it on the weekend, we can address it on the weekend. Now that I know that you felt a certain kind of way about this situation, if I'm going to apologize for my involvement in it, I can. If I'm going to agree for us to set this matter aside and revisit it another day, I should not be required to apologize before we are able to resolve the situation itself, because that is an ego stroke, forcing an apology out of somebody. Your partner should only apologize for the things that they genuinely regret allowing to happen. An apology is a form of repentance that should only be done if you truly mean it. It should not be done to make you feel better about what I did or didn't do. So if I don't feel like I did anything wrong, even if you don't like what I did, I shouldn't have to apologize for it to make you feel better about it. Recognizing you don't like what I did, I should be able to negotiate with you. How do I accomplish what I accomplished in a different fashion in the future, so that what I'm doing doesn't negatively impact you in the future? But apologizing for what I already did when I did that on purpose, I'm not sorry that your feelings are hurt. I would ultimately be sorry that you caught me doing it, or I'm ultimately sorry that you're fussing at me about it. But I'm not sorry for what I did, because if I'm sorry for what I did, I wouldn't have done. You don't apologize for deliberate behavior. You actually take the meaning out of the apology when you're forever apologizing for shit that you didn't do wrong, or things that you don't believe that you did wrong, even if you did do something wrong. So when you continuously apologize, you're ultimately surrendering any accountability for the other side of the fence, because a lot of the times in a relationship, both parties had involvement in the failure of this action, and we just need to negotiate how we're not going to fail anymore. That's it. And then proactively put forth the effort to not allow it to happen again. Right? Now, repeat behavior comes from deliberate behavior. If we've talked about this before and you're still doing it, that's because this is what you want to do. Now, it is my responsibility to communicate with you that since the change is not in your desire, that I am limited to the number of options that I'm going to have. And one of those options might be me leaving this relationship. So now we have to discuss, should I remove myself from a situation because I'm not going to stay with this behavior that I disapprove of, or will you reconsider changing your behavior patterns in a permanent fashion so that I don't have to choose to walk away from this behavior pattern, because you are not the problem. It is what you are doing that I don't like. Do you understand the difference? Now, that side note about passive aggressive behavior with the silent treatment, ladies, never do silent treatment, right? Over time, being ghosted repeatedly can lead to cynicism, distrust, and real fear of forming new connections. You really don't believe that you're worth communicating to. A lot of people get so discouraged from this that they don't even rage bait and quit the dating apps. They just don't log in anymore. They don't interact with people in person because they're socially awkward, and their only a conduit to interactions and relationships was dating apps, and now they don't even do that, right? This is the bleak landscape that the apps help create. And now they're finally trying to clean those up. Now, for years, the unofficial stance of most dating apps was that ghosting was just part of the game, a user problem, not a platform problem. But that's starting to change. Faced with users suffering from serious dating burnout, apps are finally taking action. Now, they've realized that the platforms where everyone feels disrespected isn't a good business model to have. So this has sparked a shift with some apps rolling out new policies, right? Bumble was one of the first to make this move, right? And in date to its community guidelines, Bumble reclassified one specific form of ghosting, right? And this is something that we have not thought about in so long, because I know that I've tried to tell you guys a little something about this before. They called it bullying and abusive conduct. And this is a huge deal because it takes ghosting out of the category of bad manners and puts it into the category of reportable offenses, right? And we talked about this before, and I wanted you guys to understand that they are really enforcing this stuff now to a magnitude where some people on dating apps are actually starting to experience some new changes to how the apps are functioning, how people communicate. Um, to be clear, this isn't about someone ignoring your first message, because Bumble's policy targets users who make clear and agreed plans for a real life meetup and then don't show up, right? That's what we're talking about right now. Like the guy, the one, once you get to the dating platform, um, once you get to the date, they don't show up to the date. Because I know that some people have experienced this, um, where somebody they're talking you into meeting up with them. Then when you get to the meetup, what do you mean? What's a paid site? This is a Is this a paid site? Special shout out to Sean Banks. Well, you got every dating app is a paid site. Every dating app is paid. There is no free dating apps. They have the social media apps like Facebook and other places like that, where they have like Facebook Meet or some shit like that that allows for you to communicate with people seemingly for free. But when you start talking about repetitive, diligent conversation with certain individuals, most apps charge you either a membership for monthly usage, or they charge you per message or per emoji or per this or per that. There's always some kind of fees involved with the app. The free version only gets you so far, but the paid version gets you even further. Whether the paid version gets you more views so that more people can connect with you, or the paid version gives you more contact with the people you've already connected with. Every platform has a paid version. Now, what women benefit from being women is that some apps offer compensation to profiles that have high traffic usage, meaning a lot of people are reaching out to your profile. That algorithm is triggered more often because of your profile. So since your profile generates more movement, you might have more usage on the platform than another person who doesn't pay, right? Now, because women are going to be engaged more often than men, women will more often than not have a free account and then have a free ride on the dating app, where the guy won't have that, right? And that's what women don't understand. Like a man might have to pay $250 for the membership to talk to like 1,000 women, and the woman can talk to 1,000 men for free because her platform is pushed by the algorithm, because her platform triggers other men's interaction. What um, what people fail to realize is that um, sales, women will get stuff for free so that they can charge men twice as much, because men pay for sex. Sex sells. That is the model. That's the business model for advertising. So since sex sells, women will inherently get a lot of things either cheaper or completely, simply because the men are going to cover the difference. So yeah, it's going to be a paid site. It's just that the women might not have to pay for that site a lot of the times. Oh, and then that's the other part. Like Steven says, pay to talk to bots. there are situations where they're not even bots. They're real people. So it's a real person with like 15 or 20 phones sitting next to them, and they're communicating with everybody because they have a affiliate a program where they get paid for the communication that they're having with the other people to stimulate the community, the dating pool community, by talking to these people. But they're not genuine people that are genuinely looking for connection. They are people that are encouraging other people to spend money on a profile by extending conversation. They're not going to deliberately tell you buy the membership or buy this or buy that. They're going to say, I want to talk to you more. Let's keep the communication here. Stuff to that effect that encourages you to stay on the platform. They very rarely switch over to virtual communication where you can see their face. They very rarely are willing to link up with you in person. Oh, let's talk more so that I can get more comfortable with you, blah, 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 blah. Where, yes, under normal circumstances, a woman might want to know more about you to feel comfortable with you, but a lot of bots will bait a man into having long-winded conversations for 6 months to a year because he's paying for the membership in order to communicate, right? And that's going to be that's going to be the reason why it's hard. And Steven's like, yeah, I've done that before. I've gotten baited, and I don't want to do that no more. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people pull away from these dating apps, because yeah, it does put you in a compromising position, because now you can't trust a profile photo that you're looking at. If you encourage them to prove that they're a real person, that person's going to feel like you're being too pushy, and then they're going to withdraw. If you are pushing for in-person engagement, that person might find you to be too pushy, and then they'll withdraw. But the problem is that since I don't know that you're a real person, because I've never seen you in person, I've never seen you on a video call, I don't know if I'm talking to a bot. You are responding, but AI communication has gotten so advanced, I can hold a whole conversation with the machine and not know it. We've covered this on the show before. But the communication guidelines that are happening right now is that they're setting up a platform where if you get stood up on it, you can now report that to the app. After a review from customer service, the ghoster could be banned from the platform altogether, or at least in some way, shape, or form disciplined on the platform for not following through with the date. Now, there might be some exceptions to that where something came up and they're going to be forced to reconcile in some way, shape, or form in order to continue utilizing the platform. But until the first interaction resolves itself, they would limit or restrict your communication with other participants on the platform to prevent that from continuing. He says, I've never been on a dating app. Women are everywhere. Well, we old, Stephen. We grew up in a generation before computers, so we don't have that common behavior pattern to say, oh, I'm going to get on a dating app and I'm gonna meet chicks. But take Tinder for example. Tinder is something that's been around long before like traditional dating apps were there, and Tinder is something used for a lot of guys to hook up with other people. So it's a hookup app, right? Now, the fact is, though, this policy still applies, is that if you got on Tinder to find a hookup, a one night stand, whatever the case may be, person agrees, they're supposed to meet you somewhere, they don't show up, still the same dynamic, still being ghosted. Now, this policy also applies to sister apps like Badoo and Bumble for Friends. But Bumble isn't alone, because Hinge, the app that is designed to be deleted, is tackling the slow fade with a feature called Your Turn Limits. This is the more subtle approach because it can cap the number of conversations that you can have waiting for a response, meaning that only so many people can connect with you. And then you have to start responding to people before more people start connecting with you. That's going to be a huge turnabout. If you have like 8 or more matches and you haven't replied to anybody, the app gently stops you from starting new conversations until you either reply or formally in the old communications. Now, Hinge's chief product officer said that this is designed to combat the habit of letting conversations die, which contributes to burnout. Now, it's going to be a clever note that forces you to make a choice. And it's not just a big player's responsibility. Even a few small players and newer apps have anti-ghosting ideas built into their designs. An app called Snack has a feature where users who are reported for ghosting too often will see their profile's visibility reduced. The more you ghost, the fewer people will see you. Another app called After prompts users to choose a reason why a conversation fizzled out, then generates a gentle pre-written message to send to the other person to provide some closure, which was what I was talking about doing, is just giving them like a pre-constructed, like, hey, this isn't going to work for me kind of situation. Even AI is getting involved. Apps like Amata uses an AI matchmaking to set up dates and limit messaging until a few hours before the meeting, a strategy meant to stop pre-date ghosting, where you might say something and put your foot in your mouth and now the date isn't going the way you wanted it to go, right? Well, or the date never starts because um, the date never starts because the somebody said something that they weren't supposed to say, right? So this is actually a pretty good strategy, right? So I would probably I have not been on any dating sites recently, but I would probably like to see how that would turn about um, with the new way that things are happening with social interaction, because we're in a modern society where we're going to be doing the majority of our communications with one another in social media, right? um so being able to understand how we're going to be communicating with one another and how we're going to navigate that is actually heavily important. uh so I mean, seeing how they improve the policies is going to be actually pretty interesting to hear about. But what we're seeing are going to be a few different strategies that are all trying to fix the culture of disposable connections. It's a mixed firm policy, right? Um, so the question is, you know, what are we doing next, right? The apps are finally admitting that they play a role in the problem, which is pretty cool, right? Now they're trying to be a part of the solution. So the headlines that we're seeing right now is that dating apps are banning ghosters. But what does that mean in practice? Um, let's see, because I was covering this. First, let's look at Bumble's no-show policy, because it's really important to know that this is not a ban on all ghosting. You can still stop replying to someone in the chat phase without getting in trouble. That still causes a problem because you're getting ghosted before you actually get to the first date. The policy currently is specifically targeting what happens after a clear and agreed upon plan for a date occurs and an in-person meeting has been scheduled, and then somebody doesn't honor their end of the meetup. Now, according to Bumble, this means that a date, time, and location have been confirmed by both parties, preferably on the app, so that you have evidence that the communication occurred. And this can happen in the app or on another platform as long as you have the screenshots to prove it. Now, this is going to be a very key observation that you have to look into, because a lot of the times you'll see yourself experiencing on these dating apps where somebody tries to pull you over to WhatsApp. Usually you're told when they're pulling you over to WhatsApp that it's more of a scam. So when they do pull you over to WhatsApp, you got to be able to take screenshots of the communication so that you can prove that X, Y, and Z person is not being legit on the platform, because they took you off of the platform to try to detach themselves from the fraud that they were committing. So if your date becomes a no-show and gives you no explanation, you can go to their profile and then hit block and report. Bumble adds a specific option for stood me up, and then you'll be asked to provide your evidence. Now, those screenshots are going to be key here. So a human moderator then reviews the report, and if that person confirms the violation, then the user can be suspended or even banned in some situations. Now, you compare that with Hinge's limited terms, and this is going to be less of a punishment and more of a behavioral nudge. There's no reporting system, and the app itself is the moderator. So when your inbox of unanswered messages hits a specific limit, currently it's around 8 or so, a banner appears. It gently reminds you to clear out your existing chats before you can match with new people. Now, it gives you 2 options for each stagnant chat: reply or tap a button to gracefully end the communication. So if you end it, the other person gets a polite system generated message so that they aren't left wondering what happened to you. This design leads the approach to having some advantages to providing closure to the person that is no longer being communicated to. It avoids the messy reporting system and could be less abused by those individuals that are deliberately trying to get you banned just because they don't like what you said or what you did. Now, it doesn't rely on users to police each other, but it does build a good behavior right into the app's design. Hinge's earlier your turn feature, which just reminded people to reply, led to 25% drops in ghosting. So newer limits, where the feature is going to be stronger versus the older system, is going to be a more positive and improved design. Now, this is the part that I wanted to get into. There's another system, the attention economy. Dating apps don't just connect, they compete for your attention. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube also do, which means that they're incentivized to keep you swiping, keep you matching, and keep you slightly dissatisfied, because satisfaction ends engagements. So engagements is going to drive revenue. So the app subtly trains you to chase novelty, avoid closure, and keep you searching. Ghosting is going to fit perfectly into this loop, because closure is going to be the enemy of the engagements. You're also going to be dealing with multiple parallel versions of yourself, because version A is going to be talking to a match version, the version flirting with match B, and the version ignoring match C. So these identities don't integrate with one another. They're going to exist separately in silos, which means that your behavior doesn't need to be consistent. Your reputation is going to follow you on the app. Your behavior resets with every single match, so ghosting doesn't accumulate into who you are on the app, but it will for your personality in a reality. It's going to disappear into the system, and that's going to be a powerful and yet dangerous situation. Now, the emotional consequences that we're going to be experiencing is going to be how this is going to impact a lot of other people, uh, the brain is going to keep this rejection on file. And this is going to be why ghosting feels heavier than a direct no. It's not just a rejection, it's an incomplete data set. So, taking a look at this, ghosting doesn't just happen equally across experiences. For many men, fewer matches, higher investment per interaction. So, ghosting feels like losing a rare opportunity. For many women, overwhelming volume, constant inbound attention. So, ghosting becomes a filtering mechanism. So, this isn't about who's right or who's wrong. It's just about different structural pressures producing different behaviors. Um, Earlier, we mentioned narcissism, psychopathy, and mischief villainism. Let's refine that. Those traits don't create ghosting, they thrive in environments where ghosting is easy. So, because the systems remove accountability, rewards detachment, and enables control without consequences, instead of asking, why do these people behave this way? A better question is going to be, why does the system amplify this type of behavior? So, as we continue to talk about apps that are trying to fix it, um, they're still treating the symptoms, even though they're not encouraging better behavior as much as we would prefer, because the core mechanism still remains that unlimited choices, zero switching costs, and no reputational memory. Until those changes occur, the behavior is going to change as far as ghosting is concerned. But you will see a little bit of a change with accountability for showing up to the actual date itself. So you're not going to be able to regulate the outcome of the initial first contact conversation in a system that is designed for disposability. So redesigning this, if you imagine a dating platform where you can only hold 5 active conversations at a time, like what we just finished talking about, each conversation expires unless closed, and your profile shows a closure rate, a high reliability unlocks better matches. Now, what happens? Ghosting becomes expensive. Consistency becomes valuable, and suddenly behavior shifts, not because of people change, but because the system did. Now we got to look at this real quick. And this is something that I just started looking into. Now, you notice that every dating profile has information on it about who you are and what you like and what you don't like and blah, 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 blah. But what they don't have, but I have seen this on certain affiliate marketing apps, your communication rate, um, reply back within 24 hours, frequent contact rate, um, performance level, like adding things like a 5-star rating, um, um, percentage of people either ghosted or left unread, stuff to that effect. These stats, if they're attached to your profile, shows exactly how active you are on the site, how responsive you are on the site. And these stats being included into your profile can show people who are about to engage you that you're less likely to respond, you're less likely to maintain long-term conversations, you're less likely to pursue a in-person engagement, you're less likely, based on the stats, based on like, did this communication lead to a first date? No. Okay. The number of contacts that led to a first date, the percentage is going to be there. The number of contacts that lasted longer than 20 or 30 replies, the number of contacts that lasted for more than 6 months, stuff to that effect. When your stats from person to person encounters starts becoming a historical reference to who you are on the platform, that's when you start seeing accountability, where they don't actually have to ban you from ghosting per se. But when you start getting negative social repercussions from ignoring so many people, if your profile has been interacted with by 100,000 people and only 5,000 people have actually received a response, you've got a 5% response rate. A person with a 5% response rate, you're not going to swipe right on that person because the odds of them responding to you is going to be slim to none. As a man, you're still going to have, if they respond, a 50-50% that they're going to say yes. So if you're looking at a profile with a 5% response rate, these types of features being added to the apps in addition to limited conversation and everything to that effect, that aids hold users accountable for what they're not doing. So the uncomfortable truth is that ghosting still isn't going away. There are still going to be scenarios where ghosting is still going to be an issue, because while we have policies and punishments from Bumble's model and then design nudging from Hinge's model, algorithm consequences from Stats model, where using feedback to create a reputation score that affects your success on the app, each of these integrated all together are still in experimental phases trying to enforce basic decency in a digital space that has long felt like the wild, wild west, because there's no accountability for people's behavior patterns, right? But it's the logical outcome of a system that is built for speed, scale, and endless choices. So it's not a bug in the system, and the system's not broken, right? Um, Now we've just broken down the new rules of the game, and we actually came up with some new ways for the platforms to function. We're going to see how far they get and how well it turns out over time. But we've covered from getting your profile hidden to getting outright banned. And I'm really curious about your experiences on dating apps. Steven told me not now, never again. Have you guys seen any of these features on dating apps recently? Has anybody been on Hinge and used Hinge as your turn limits, or wish that you could report a no-show on Bumble? More importantly, do you guys think this will change anything going forward as these features become more mainstream on more dating apps? I want to hear your stories. I want you guys to make sure that you take the time to put it into the comment section and tell me if you think that this is being the beginning of the end for ghosting, or just a temporary fix, or just an extra feature that really just gets in the way of interactions. Your insights are going to be a huge part of the conversation, so I want you guys to let me know what you think. Now, on the surface, these anti-ghosting rules sound like a huge win. Some account only going to happen. But when you look closer, a lot of complex questions and potential problems come up with this. Is it really possible to police human interactions this closely? And could trying to eliminate ghosting create a whole new set of problems? I haven't found any problems with monitoring the outcome of communication, but I have observed and thought about the fallout of people who deliberately try to get you banned by creating 5 or 7, 10 different profiles that will report you, not because you did something wrong, but because the one person doesn't want you to succeed on a profile. So these features can be good for the honest people, but it can be more negatively impacting for the dishonest people. Now, the biggest concern is going to be safety. Now, for people that are, especially the men and women of the LGBTQ plus community, ghosting isn't just rude, it's a self-preservation tool. So what if you agree to a date, but then your match starts sending aggressive messages? What if a quick social media search reveals posts that makes you feel deeply unsafe? In those cases, disappearing isn't ghosting, it's creating a necessary boundary, right? So a strict policy that punishes users for not showing up to a date could accidentally penalize someone for making a smart decision to get out of a potentially dangerous situation. However, that person could have behaved more responsibly by communicating with the other person that you are no longer available to participate in this particular date, and then um, report the information that discouraged you from showing up to this date to admin so that they don't restrict your account. Just don't make it a habit. Now, interestingly, Tinder, they have their own website that has a page that says if someone makes you feel unsafe, you should retreat and delete. But deleting the person off of your profile puts them back into the queue. Deleting your profile takes you off of the site. Two different things. This is going to highlight a core conflict. How can an app tell the difference between a malicious no-show and a justified escape? Bumble says that they're going to take the context into account, but proving a gut feeling is almost impossible. There are some loopholes there, which means that somebody who deliberately ghosted you can make it seem like they didn't feel safe going to the engagement, which played you and the system. These policies target specific behavior patterns, but people are very creative when it comes to avoidance. What's to stop someone from just unmatching you right before the date? The chat vanishes and it becomes much harder to report them. What if they unmatched you, blocked you, and all of this other stuff before the date? What about the slow fade? It's still affected by just taking longer and longer to reply with one-word answers until you get up, forcing you to withdraw from the engagements. No current system can really police that type of behavior. There's also the issue of proof. Screenshots help, but they don't always tell the whole story. A conversation can be manipulated. What if someone claims a date was confirmed when it was still tentative? This reliance on user reports opens the doors to he said, she said disputes and puts dating apps in the uncomfortable position of being relationship referees, a role that they aren't really set up for. Finally, could these features make the dating apps feel even more robotic because the Actor app generating a automatic breakup text is a prime example of this. It provides closure, but it also profoundly impersonalizes it. Are we heading towards a future where we just outsource our hard conversations to a chatbot? Does a generic "I'm not feeling the connection" message from a bot feel any better than the silence? Some might say it's even colder. It risks stripping away the very humanity that really creates the connections that we require. Now, these new rules aren't well intended attempts to solve a real problem, but they also walk a fine line between enforcing kindness and punishing people for protecting themselves. So, where is this all going to head for us in the future? This new focus on accountability is going to be a major pivot for dating apps. We're seeing a deliberate shift away from the anything goes chaos of the early swipe era towards a more guided model where apps are finally realizing that to survive, they need to place where people feel respected and hopeful into the app where people will be able to find a higher success rate. Now, this trend is likely going to continue with technology like AI playing a bigger role. One idea that gets talked about is a kind of reputation system that I talked to you guys about earlier tonight. So, if you imagine responsiveness and reliability were visible on the profile, like your Uber driver rating, this could create an ecosystem where good behavior is going to be rewarded, where you communicate with people because you are interested in them, and you respectfully remove yourself from the communication when you're no longer interested. You're also going to have to put in a fine line between those individuals that are on the free version that are not allowed to follow up versus the people that are on the paid version. Because when you think about dating apps where the paid version of the app is going to have unlimited messaging and the free version of the app is going to be restricted, you're only going to be able to make contact with a handful of people before you're blocked off of the profile. But serial ghosters are going to find themselves on the sidelines more often in this particular type of environment where social stigma will take a low response rate and swipe left on that person. Yeah, she's hot, but she's got a 4% response rate, right? it's a controversial idea, but one that's being explored. So we can also expect a greater emphasis on satisfied by design or in safety by design, where building satisfaction and safety features into the core of the app, where this is going to be driven by user demand and even government regulations, where laws like the United Kingdom Online Safety Acts are pushing platforms to be more responsible, while the law focuses on broader harms like cyber flashing, not ghosting specifically. It's going to be a part of a larger trend of holding tech companies accountable for user safety. The culture impact could be significant by officially labeling certain behaviors as unacceptable after helping establish new norms for digital etiquette. Simple, polite rejection text, hey, I enjoy chatting, but don't think we're a match, could become the new standard, replacing the agony of silence. This won't eliminate the sting of rejection, but provides closure and reduces the emotional burnout that makes people quit the apps, which will increase user performance, because if less people are quitting the app from burnout, more customers are there using and paying for the app. However, we're also seeing a counter trend. Some people, especially the Gen Zs, are getting tired of the apps altogether. They're opting for old school methods like meeting through friends or hobby groups, the way Stephen was talking about earlier. This suggests that while apps can be improved, they may never fully replicate the nuance of a real world connection. One of the better parts about a real world connection is that if you met her in person, you can get back to her again. I mean, unless you met her while you were out of town. The future of dating then will likely be a hybrid. Apps will keep evolving in design to become smarter and safer, but at the same time, the value of real world communication will only increase. The apps that succeed in long run will be the ones that can bridge the digital to the real world gap and foster a culture of respect and accountability. And ladies, y'all got to think about this. More and more often, you're hearing men and society and technology all point towards first person accountability and responsibility. And for the feminist model that acts on the lack of responsibility and accountability, those individuals that act on deflecting their responsibility and putting that on somebody else is going to find themselves having more and more trouble going forward into the future, interacting with society, because society is starting to demand responsibility and first person accountability. So we've seen how dating apps accidentally create a ghosting epidemic and how the emotional toll of that has led to a widespread burnout. We broke down the new strategies from apps like Bumble and Hinge, who are using everything from bans to design nudges to hold people accountable. But we've also seen that there are no easy answers. Still, this push against ghosting is complicated by safety concerns and the risk of making dating feel even less human. Now, this is all a grand experiment happening in real time, an attempt to add courtesy into a system that was built for speed and volume. So the truth is that no app feature can force someone to be kind. No policy can eliminate the sting of rejection, but what these changes can do is shift the conversations. They can send a clear signal that ghosting isn't normal or acceptable parts of dating anymore, and that there are now consequences for this behavior. And that's going to bring me to the bigger questions that I want to leave with you. Do you think that these new rules will finally bring some common courtesy back to the dating? Or is it all just a digital band-aid on a very human problem? Is it the solution that is going to be better on the apps? Or do we as users just need to be better to each other? So if you found this show helpful, please make sure that you guys take the opportunity to hit that subscription button and like the show. And seriously, you want to share your thoughts and your own ghosting stories in the comment section, because this is a conversation that we all need to have. Now, I got a lot more stuff that we're going to be talking about. We made sure that tomorrow is up and running. We've got Monday up and running. So you're going to be seeing, I'm actually about to now start throwing some extra stuff into the membership tonight for the rest of the weekend. So make sure that you guys take time out of your week to take a look at those things. Then I'm going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I give you this information to help y'all become higher value men, because when you prioritize the things in your life that are inside of your control that you don't like, you can start changing those things to improve your life. That gives you the opportunity to navigate around the things that are outside of your control. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can take this information to make yourselves higher value women by prioritizing your 20 or 30-year plan and then reverse engineering it to what you got to do today to get to where you want to be at tomorrow. You then have the ability to show the due diligence of following your goals and your plans. Now, keeping your eyes and ears open for that potential suitor that has the capabilities of expressing the right personality, characteristics, drives, ambition, motivation, and integrity to aspire to get to where they need to be, and checking their goals and seeing how well their goals mesh with your goals. You will find a better partner that will help you get to where you want to be, where y'all can accomplish all goals faster together. I tell you guys on a regular basis that two people can get to $1 million faster than one, but it requires both of you to have the same long-term goals or similar long-term goals of long-term satisfaction, not short-term gratification. So if one of you is saving for the future and the other one's living in the moment, you guys will never succeed in your goals. So I want you guys to pay attention to that. So that's all I got for you guys for tonight. I really appreciate the hiccups. I really appreciate you guys staying strong with this. I want to give another special shout out to Michael, Steven, FX Trader, Nicole, Sean Banks, and OG Kicks. I really appreciate y'all popping into the show and showing support. I want to thank you guys one more time for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground.